the chain.
Welcome to another episode of Off the Chain with your host Armel. So today we have Harold. Harold is the CEO of B Blockchain based in Belgium. And welcome, Harold.
Welcome, nice to meet you, and thank you to welcoming me to your show. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is all ours. I mean, I was trying to bring this show live again because everybody, we're in lockdown restrictions. So I thought, hey, why don't we just have some of the smartest guy in the blockchain ecosystem to come on the show and have a very nice conversation with around some of the what blockchain's been doing, especially with the COVID-19. What are some of the application of our blockchain? Right. So you want to introduce yourself quickly, your background?
Yes, sure. So, Harold, as you said, from Belgium, and I started my career in blockchain on a French project called Daniel.io, which is like the Bloomberg of cryptocurrencies. So it's a smart assistant that retrieves financial data from the crypto markets. And then I decided to create my consultancy firm in Belgium. That's why I called it B Blockchain as a Belgian blockchain. And so we are three managers, and so we propose a blockchain integration in small and middle companies and startups. We also have our own projects. For example,
Okay.
the events. So the event is a decentralized event platform, and so we aim to be the standard cashless and ticketing system for the event industry.
Okay, so is this something that everybody can just join in on the events? How does the events work? If I wanted to go to see the latest concert of, let's say, LL Cool J, I will never go see LL Cool J concert, by the way. Some other artists, right? So how will I do that? Do I go to like an app store, download the events, and
Actually, we are still in development. We are
okay,
finalizing the front end. So we already have our blockchain. So we are using a private blockchain. So it's Hyperledger at the moment
okay,
because a simple reason, because we couldn't find any public blockchain that can support our project, because we need microtransactions, instantaneous transaction, and we cannot manage um, an unsustainable gas difficulty, that will
okay.
change the price of the transaction.
So that would be something like on Ethereum, right?
Exactly, yes. We thought, of course, about Ethereum, but the problem is the stability, and a transaction on Ethereum can takes up to 15 minutes. It's too much when you are at a festival. If you want to pay for a beer, you cannot wait too much time. So that's why we decided to create our own blockchain, but we are still blockchain agnostics. So we are studying the new technologies every day. For example, we are currently studying Celocamp, if you know. It's a new blockchain that is very promiseful, and so we will see how it goes. And
Okay.
so the event is not yet operable, but we already tried some alpha tests on the blockchain. We created tickets, we created transactions. Everything works fine. We just need to go live after this crisis, because
Uh,
as you know, the event industry is on pause.
yes, everybody's on pause at the moment, I know. But
Exactly.
you touched briefly on Ethereum there. You touched on Hyperledger.
Mhm.
So Hyperledger, which is more of a private blockchain, enterprise blockchain, as IBM likes to call it, right? So I mean, were there not a way to bring to make Ethereum enterprise ready? I mean, what's missing on Ethereum to
Mm.
be able to cater for your business requirements? You mentioned gas price, right?
Yeah. For example, yes. So the stability of the gas price, but one of the main pain points, but has been solved actually, is that for the user ergonomy, it's complicated to integrate, for example, Ethereum, because they have to pay the gas in Ethereum. If I create a token on top of Ethereum, I will have to pay the gas in Ethereum. But no, they solve that,
Okay.
so we can pay with tokens. So at the beginning, it means that when the user want to use our system, our token,
Mm-hmm.
he will have to buy some Ethereum in his wallet to pay his transaction. So you lose
Okay.
all the people because they are
Mm-hmm.
not familiar with crypto, and it's too complicated to start using a token. So that's one of the big pain points. But it's solved because I see, for example, the project Stasis, which is a euro pledged token, a stable coin on euro. So you can pay your gas fee with the token, actually. Another
Mm-hmm.
problem is, as I told you, the, the, the transaction per second. So it's too slow. And we've seen that in the past with CryptoKitties, for example. You can have some very big congestions on the network. And
Yeah.
I let you imagine if it happens during a big festival while using the event, it's just not possible. People have to pay in a matter than less than 1 second in order
Mm-hmm.
to continue the line, the queue, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so having instantaneous payment is very important. Um, and that's the most of the problems. There are others, but I don't have it in mind. But about the development, my developers will have explained this better than I. But yes, you have some problems on that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that you have to code on Solidity, and so I think to go mainstream, it's better to have technology like computing language like JavaScript, like Stellar Network.
Okay.
For example,
All
Stellar Network is also a very good network, but when we tried it, there were a breakdown in the stability during 2 hours, and so we
Oh,
just
really?
said it's not possible.
All
Yes.
right. Actually, yeah, because in the past we did a project where we
Yeah.
implemented payments on Stellar.
Yes,
All right.
we
Well,
tried some transactions,
yes.
and yes, there were some limitations, let's say. But the Stellar is we are still following it because it's one of the best, but there are
Mm-hmm.
still some problems in
Mm-hmm.
practice.
So one of the things that you mentioned there is so new users coming to the network for the events need to buy some more ethers, right? And if I understand correctly, anyway, ethers have to be bought on the exchange, right? So for someone who's never been to cryptocurrency, now
It's complicated.
you need to go to a third party to get some ethers, then to come on the platform to be able to use that ether.
Mhm.
So you think that's one of it's not really a good customer user experience, right? It doesn't provide a good user experience. And
Exactly.
if you, but what about the security aspect of things? Because in the past there were a lot of a lot of smart contracts being hijacked, being used by bad actors over there and out there to try to get some of the ethers out. Still whatever was coming into the smart contract. So how does Hyperledger apply security at that level? Where is it more secure that you mentioned Solidity being one of the languages used to write those smart contracts on Ethereum, and JavaScript can be
Mhm.
used also, and also Java can be used on Hyperledger, including Go, I believe. Go also,
Mhm.
can also be used. So in terms of security, right? In terms of security, when you have Ethereum on one side and you have Hyperledger on one side, what is the real difference there in terms of security?
Mhm. So it's a good question, actually. I will answer that it depends what you do with Hyperledger, of course, because
Okay.
Hyperledger is a framework. Then you create your blockchain, and if you created your blockchain the right way, it can be very secure. If you have
Mm-hmm.
many nodes, then it will depends on the participant in the network. So normally by using Hyperledger, you select your nodes, your master nodes, and normally you trust them. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
in the case of Ethereum, it's a big network, so it's very secure in the way if you want to attack the blockchain, you have to control the 51 attack, or
Mm-hmm.
so it's very complicated to hack a blockchain as big as Bitcoin or Ethereum. So I think the security issues will be in the development of the interface.
Okay.
So the all the software between the blockchain and your application. That's where
Mm-hmm.
the hackers can do anything in your backends or sending wrong information to the blockchain, etc. So it's not a question of security about the blockchain in talking about
Mm-hmm.
Ethereum, but mostly of the development around it.
Okay. All right. So all the endpoints. So, for example, if someone develops some APIs, API could be,
Mhm.
where the security really need to be looked at, need to be implemented, need to be more strengthened, really, put more strength
Mhm.
on the security around those APIs and around that layer. But another thing, how do you mentioned microtransactions, right? So the events will have a lot of microtransactions
Mhm.
between the participant, and how does it actually work? Is it a one-to-one, as two people on the same network can exchange
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
events data or transactions? How does it work?
Actually, it's euro paged. It means that so on Hyperledger we tokenize the euro. So when
Okay.
so you have the cash in and the cash out. So you
Okay.
go in the ecosystem and you go out.
Hmm.
So when you go in, the let's take a user. For example, I want to have on my e-wallet 100 euros. I will send the money to a deposit account with our partner Belfius in Belgium. Then the blockchain will automatically send the tokens to the owner.
Okay.
So it's the custody. So the custody from the bank sends the information on the blockchain to issue the tokens to the sender. And so the user will receive 100 euros tokenized, so as tokens on
Hmm.
his e-wallet. But he never know that because he's just charging his e-wallets. We don't talk about tokens, etc. Just to be as simple as possible for the user. So you just like
Hmm.
top up your accounts with money. Then you can use your euros to pay the tickets, to pay your consumption on site, etc.
Hmm.
So the most easiest way to use the blockchain actually. So the user doesn't need to know that it's blockchain behind it.
Hmm.
The technology has to be hidden to be very efficient, at least for the B2C. And then when they have the tokens, they can buy tickets. So we also have a smart contract managing the ticketing system. And then they can also use the tokens to buy, let's say, their beverage, their foods,
Hmm.
merchandising on site, etc. So it's very
Okay,
easy to
cool.
use with your mobile app and with NFC and QR codes payment systems. So very
Mhm.
easy to use.
All right. Oh, great. On the topic of the blockchain, what's your view of the blockchain state of the nation? What's your view of the blockchain now, if you want to compare it to 2017, without going too much into
Mm,
2017 to now, and also with all this restrictions that we have around because we have a virus that's
mm,
a pandemic and everybody's kind of restricted. So, what's your view on the state of the nation of blockchain?
mm. When I started in the blockchain field, it was 3 years ago, and I started. It was the hype. The Bitcoin reached sorry, $21,000. It was the cryptocurrency race.
Hmm.
ICOs were performing very well. We did an ICO with Daniel. We raised 2 millions in 2 days. Then the crisis started. So I come from this time, and at this time, um, let's say the crypto nation was the blockchain nation and crypto nation was very different than today because it was not mature. It was just like investment in projects that doesn't really need didn't really need blockchain. It was really the hype. People were investing in everything and just for speculating and earn some money after by reselling the tokens. So that was more than, let's say, 99% of the ICOs, maybe less, exaggerating, but yeah, this time was very different. And now we understood that we cannot create ecosystem based on volatility. You cannot buy your breads, you cannot buy your beer with cryptocurrencies, because when you
Maybe
own
there's
your
something called
crypto,
beer coin. Is there a beer coin somewhere?
yeah, exactly.
There's a coin for everything.
Look, someone bought a pizza few years ago, and I think now he's getting crazy. But it's not possible. It can be a store of value as a Bitcoin, but you cannot use the cryptocurrencies in your everyday life. So the first use case of cryptocurrencies was trading and investing, and I think it was under evaluating the power of blockchain in those time. And now I think that let's say professionals understood the power and the capacity of blockchain technologies beyond the cryptocurrency usage. So you have no blockchain in real estate, you have blockchain in let's say advocacy, you have blockchain in insurance. Blockchain can be and is will be everywhere. By crossing it with AI and IoT, we understood the huge potential of blockchain. So I think today is another step is that the institutions are investing and developing their own blockchain ecosystems. For example, we have the so-called digital bank cryptocurrencies, central bank cryptocurrencies, like in China, like they want in France, etc. And you also have the European Commission that launched the EBSI, which is the blockchain for Europe. And
Okay, EBSI.
yeah, exactly. And so we already have 4 use cases. Amongst them, we have diploma management, ID management. So I think another thing very important nowadays is that we have to understand that managing the ID of the citizen, for example, has to be managed by public institutions, in my opinion. So that's why European Commission projects are very interesting, because imagine that all the IDs will be controlled by a private company. I think it's like the Facebook Libra or stuff like that. Things that I think we have to avoid, because it's not really decentralized. In the case of European Commission, we can imagine that all banks, some citizen institutions can also own the nodes and control what happens on the blockchain. So it's very let's say privacy respectful,
Okay. So actually, you mentioned IoT, right?
Mm.
IoT, blockchain, AI. That's things that we see a lot in the magazine and the website, the blogs at the moment. Everybody talking about how blockchain and IoT and AI and how they could all work together. But is there one good use case that you want to discuss? You want to tell us about? Because I
Mm.
also understand that B blockchain also system integrated and they do a lot of blockchain based projects, right?
Mhm.
So you guys have a lot of clients that you speak to to understand what the requirements are. So in terms of IoT, blockchain, and AI, did you speak
Mhm.
to anybody around that? Do you have
Yeah.
conversation around that?
Actually, better than that, I can explain you our project with our partners
Okay.
here in Belgium. So our partners is called ICGO, and they are launching. They actually launched a Selfbar. So Selfbar, it's like you serve yourself a beer, like at the gas station. So
Okay.
you pay by centiliter. So you imagine you have a pump.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your goblets. You take
Yep.
some beer at the tap, and so you pay by centiliter, and you are using e-wallets with a cryptocurrency on it, and actually it's compatible with the Events mobile app.
Mm-hmm.
So I let you imagine. So you arrive at the festival, you have some Selfbar, and you can use your application to pay by centiliter your beverage. And inside this Selfbar, you have IoT and AI that will control everything. So actually,
Mm-hmm.
when you take some beer at the pump, um, centiliter by centiliter, you will see that your wallet is decreasing, like just the gas station. You look at the screen and you see your money. You are let's say your expenses are on real time,
Mm-hmm.
and so we are partnering with them because we are managing offline operation. And so
Okay.
on this Selfbar, we are hosting nodes that will register the transaction in case of internet failure. And so the festival will continue offline without any problem. And so the IoT will control all the service. So, for example, if the pump is empty,
Mm-hmm.
so before it's becoming empty, you will receive a notification that the I don't know the name of the recipient of the beer, the fût.
Well, you mean the fuel or the?
Yeah, the fuel. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So when you are getting empty, you receive a notification. You still have 10% of full of beer, for example, in your pump.
Okay. Yep.
So you have to change it.
Okay. So just like you mentioned, right? I go to the usually you go to a petrol station, right?
Mhm.
So you park your car.
The same, yeah.
And it's okay. I want to get some more gasoline. So you go to the pump. You take the pump, and you
Mhm.
can see on the meter how much you're putting in and how much you're getting charged.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now that is applied to actually serving beer, right? Is that what you're saying? All right.
Yeah.
So
For example, beers
I can
or
see
Coca,
like,
anything.
and if I have just enough for let's say 10 milliliters, then I will
Yeah.
just be charged 10 milliliters.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So I could have multiple macro transactions where I could
Mm.
have 100 cl, 10 ml, all right? So, and I can see in real time. Is it real time
Mm.
that I see decreasing in my
Yeah.
wallet?
Yes, you see your money melting, let's say, while you are serving your beer. So you can see just like the gas station.
Okay. Well, that's something that you could actually apply to a lot of other, use cases, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Shoppings and food, even ice cream, right?
Mhm, mhm.
You
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
make sure that all the
yeah.
kids just have a certain amount of ice cream.
Exactly. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, exactly. So we can imagine everything in that
mhm,
case. So that's how AI, IoT, and blockchain works in this case, and it's very compatible, and you can automate everything.
mhm.
So from the payment to the accountability, the accountability.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But at the moment, we have this restriction, right? Because we have the COVID-19,
Mhm,
and so there's a lockdown, there's a restriction, and most governments want to be able to trace it. They also implemented social distancing, but
mhm,
as we all know, not everybody actually, following the guidelines of the government. So then a way to enforce the social distancing at the same time to trace who has, where the virus came from. They also mention things about a passport, immune passport, immunity passport. So people who have not contracted it, or people who contracted it but don't have it anymore. So
mhm,
we'll have this data somewhere in any systems, all right, that will tell the people, okay, they don't have it, so we can actually check it, we can actually validate it. But all I'm hearing at the moment, I'm not actually hearing uh, most of the applications. If you take France as an example, in France, you have a restriction that you cannot go out without having an authorization. And the way they authorize it, you have to go to a website, you have to put in your data, your detail in, and print out a form.
mhm,
Then you go to the form. If you get if you get stopped by police, for a check, you can show, okay, this is my form. They probably scan some barcode on it. Maybe, I'm not too sure. I haven't seen the form myself. but and then they let you go. But how did they know that you didn't print 500,000 of this same form? All
Mhm.
right. Well, nothing proves that that's your first time that you've been going out. Isn't that this kind of solution, this kind of problem that the blockchain is
Mhm.
trying to solve? What's your opinion on that?
Yes, actually, I don't know how it really works, but I guess you have to print it with the date of today with your name.
Hmm.
So I don't know what is the barcode for, but if using a blockchain, that will maybe facilitate the process. You can use, for example, your in Belgium we have ID card with chips, you know. So we
Hmm.
thought about using that kind of system and putting all the information on the chip of your ID cards. Here, for
Okay.
example, if you use a blockchain system, you could upload some information about the coronavirus and your movements directly on your chip, and you can scan it in the street with the policeman. So it could
Hmm.
simplify everything. But in this case, if you speak about privacy as well, it's again the same. Who will handle this data and what will they do with that? I don't know. If it's only paper, it's easy to fake, you know, as
Hmm.
you said. But I don't really know how it works. Actually, I should read about this and see if there is a potential for blockchain application upon there. Yeah.
Hmm. So the Belgium solution that you mentioned that they're trying to do, is it to is it in any way just to see how many times you went out in terms of uh lockdown restrictions? For example, in
Mm.
the UK, they say that okay, you can go out for an hour a day, all right? So there's no way to check that you went out twice, 3 times.
Mhm.
So with the ID, kind of also okay, this person, Mr. Joe Blogs, went out once already, around between 9 and 10, and this is the second round out. So
Mhm.
send him home or give him a fine. Right. So what exactly does he do? Does he, what kind of data does is he able to say you've been out already?
Mhm. Yeah, I think if you want to control if people have been out or not, you can just register in the same registry, blockchain or something else,
Mm-hmm.
all the movements. So people have to input this data into the database, and if they go out twice, they will have to make it a second time. That will not be allowed if, for example, they cannot go out more than once one time. And if they want to go out without the paper, without registering the move, they will I don't know they will have to
Mm-hmm.
pay a fine or something. So yeah, it's possible to track the movements that way. But I think if we go this way, it's gonna be crazy and people will not accept it, because I think
Mm-hmm.
it's maybe too extreme to just allow one move every day and control it that way. I think people will feel like in jail, you know.
Well, I heard a lot of people comparing the currency restriction to being, they call it lockdown, right? Right.
Mhm.
So,
Great
uh,
lockdown.
okay, so you have the movement, right? You
Mhm.
have the data there. So lots of user data, citizen data will be shared across different organizations, I believe.
Mhm.
Oh, and Europe has been really strict on privacy, so you have to respect the right of the citizens and the how. And now with the virus, different organizations are trying to harness as much data as possible about the person. Right.
Mhm.
First of all, they want to know your health record, right? In terms of have you contracted it before? Are you immune to it? Now they want to also know your movement, right? To see if in the area that's still, for example, the project that Apple and Google are doing in the States, where they will be able to tell you, avoid this area because it's already congested, there's already too many people. So if you want to respect the 2 meters social distancing, you probably need to go somewhere else. So all that information will be available. Now, having Apple and Google on one side doing that, I'm sure that European Union and their privacy laws and the way they oversee, especially Google, or violating all the privacy laws. Isn't that something that could be actually applied on the blockchain, where users will be actually in charge of their own data, right? And we'll be able to share the information that they want to share. So if you
Mhm.
just want to know where they've been, they can give you that without telling you if they're immune or not. All
Mhm.
right.
Yes, talking about Google in comparison with the blockchain, actually, it's all about transparency. You know, if actually Google, they have software architecture, they have many servers, everything. I think
Mhm.
for a company like Google, it's easy to hide things. You can hide that you manage the data from your clients to another stuff. You know, I think it could be easy to do that. Um, so talking about blockchain, the main difference is that you can store all the client's data or the citizen data on just this blockchain. Um, but the case is that you could let's say copy this data and use it in another way. But if the input of this data on the blockchain is encrypted, it means that only the user has access to his
Mhm.
data and can share it with
Mhm.
who he wants. So it's okay. But I think in Europe we are moving in the good way with the GDPR. You know, we have many warnings on that, and companies here in Europe has to be compliant with GDPR. And
Mhm.
so I'm working with a partner. His name is a Transcendent Group, which is a big group that manage privacy, due diligence, risk management, etc. in big companies. And
Okay.
you know, with the new laws, regulations about the GDPR in Europe, things are getting more transparent, and they have to be compliant. But of course, it will depend as well. Not only on the documents provided for GDPR, you know, because sometimes a service can just upload documents telling their client that they can use the data for tier, but you don't know where will go this data. I think the control will be very important. So Europe will control all these companies, and we'll see what they do with
Mhm.
their data. But I mean, it needs also because the technology is very complex in terms of AI, blockchain.
Mhm.
Europe has to have controllers very skilled, cybersecurity experts,
Mhm.
in order to understand all the architecture of these companies, and to find a way to understand how they use the data. So we call it the data structure. And I think it will be very important for Europe and for the regulators to be well prepared for
Mhm.
this turn, because sometimes, such as just like the greenwashing, we have the blockchain washing. Sometimes the companies are saying that they are using blockchain technology in order to protect the privacy, but I've seen some projects. Blockchain is just the word. They are not using they are not protecting anything, so I think it's
Mhm.
dangerous to fall in this professional jargon. I don't know in English the term, but
That's and jargon. Yep.
yeah,
Buzzword
jargon.
jargons. Yep.
Exactly. And just to lose people, it's exactly the same with the finance, with the crisis in 2008. The regulators didn't understood what was doing the traders, with high frequency trading, CBDO,
Mhm.
etc. It was so complicated that only them could understand it. I think it's the same with all technologies.
Yep.
And so that's something we have to avoid.
So, what do you think is the future of our blockchain? What direction are we going in at the moment with blockchain? What do you like to see in the future?
So the future of blockchain, I think that blockchain has to evolve in a way that brings ecosystems together in a more transparent and secure way. So, as I said earlier, I think some matters about blockchain has to be handled by public institutions, such
Mm-hmm.
as ID check, such as diplomas, etc. And of course, I think that private blockchain have also a role to play in the private companies to share data across the borders in a transparent and secure way. Cryptocurrencies, I think, also will evolve. As we can see, we have more and more stablecoin and fiat paged systems, just like the event,
Mm-hmm.
and that way it will be usable by the clients, the people actually. And yes, I think blockchain is gonna has to be think in a community, just like the ICOs in the past, but now we
Mm-hmm.
are mostly turning into STOs. Um, so I think the future of blockchain is bright. It's becoming very mature now. Technology
Mm-hmm.
is becoming mature. There still have a gap in the public blockchain in terms of our user experience, you know.
Yep,
Um,
I understand.
but yeah, but I think it's gonna be filled very soon. It's a matter of months or maybe 1 2 years. So I think, yeah, blockchain is gonna be the big thing in maybe not this year because of the crisis, or
Mm-hmm.
it can bring some opportunities as well. But maybe next year, I think blockchain is gonna be a huge thing in companies. I saw some figures recently that one company on three will think about integrating blockchain technology. So I think it's like 30% of companies
Mm-hmm.
will think about that is very huge.
Okay, so it looks like the future is bright for blockchain, and as we move, into the future, more development on the front. And yes, what you mentioned around customer experience on public blockchains definitely need to evolve.
Mhm.
We need to move away from the engineering culture that we have now and start thinking about the
Definitely.
usability. How is people
Mhm.
going to be using this technology that we have? And I think I probably touched every point now. We just didn't discuss anything around open banking,
Mhm.
blockchain. Is it something that you guys came across at B blockchain?
Mhm. Actually, we can say that the event is a fintech. So we are working with banks at the moment in order to deal with the custody and the deposits.
Okay.
But later we will decline the standardize, sorry, the event into DE-Pay. So DE-Pay is a decentralized e-payments,
Okay.
and so it will be usable in any merchants. So that's what we are creating. Creating is a collaborative economy. So
Mhm.
let's take a big festival using the event. So you will have thousands of users using the event. Imagine that you are a bar or a hotel or restaurant, supermarket, anything, shops around the festival. They will
Mhm.
have an interest to use the event because they will be present in the ecosystem, and the users will see them on the map, let's say, and they will be able to use the event mean of payments to pay in their shops. So that's how we deal with the event, and that's actually our strategy to get to go to the mass adoption. It's
Mhm.
going through the festivals and then to all merchants and everything.
Okay, great. So, this brings us to the end of the
Mhm.
podcast, to the stream. All right. So, thank you, Harold, CEO of
My pleasure.
B Blockchain. Thank you for coming on the show.
It was a
Such a
pleasure.
short
Thank you.
notice too. Thank you. And thank everyone else for listening to us and watching us on YouTube channel. And we hope to see you soon with more shows. Thank you all, and stay
Thank
safe,
you.
stay home.
Yes, stay home.